Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1406B, and today's date is October 20th, 2017, and the title of the episode is, The U.S. Just Admitted Something That They Never Admitted to Before. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, out in Catalonia, we can see that things, well, they are accelerating, not in a good way. And we see the pro-independence Catalan National Assembly has urged Catalans who back the region's independence to start withdrawing money from 5 banks, including those that moved their headquarters out of Catalonia. And this right now looks like there's going to be some type of bank run. They might even close the banks, and people are joining in on this where they're withdrawing their funds. And right now it does look like that Spain, Catalonia, they might be heading into some type of crisis. And we see at this point what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, hey, listen, if you don't let us do what we want to do, we're just going to remove our funds from the banks, and we'll show you that you can't force us into doing something we don't want to do. And this is exactly what the people are doing right now. And we can see right now that the Spanish government, they're just not going to sit by. The central banks are not just going to sit by. They are definitely going to do something, and we're going to have to watch the situation because we can see that it's really heating up right now. Now, out in Afghanistan, what normally happens is there's Afghan military that come to the United States, and the United States trains them and sends them back. Now, Afghan soldiers and police brought to the United States for training, well, they've been going absent and they can't find them. And it looks like there's a high number of Afghans that flee the military training in the U.S. and they just integrate into the United States and they cannot find them. Now, once again, they're coming here, they're being trained, and it looks like they don't want to go back to their country and they're basically fleeing right now. And this has become a problem, because now we have these individuals in the country. We don't know really who they are, and this whole program is not working out. Actually, what we need to do is we need to get out of Afghanistan. We need to remove our forces. We need to let the Afghanistan government take control, just like the Libyan government, just like the Lebanon government, just like the Iraqi government. These governments need to take control of their country. The United States should not be involved in these areas at all anymore. And I think that day is coming. I think that time is coming when the U.S. will no longer have soldiers and forces in these areas, because it makes no sense to keep them there. And this is happening at an accelerated pace right now, because we can see that Iraq is calling for the United States to get out. We see that Syria is saying, listen, you need to get out of our country. Libya, they don't want the United States there. Sudan doesn't want the United States there. And many of these countries are saying it's time for the United States to get out. We see that Russia, they have brought in 3 Russian Navy ships that arrived in Philippines. They are dropping off military equipment. Duterte has made a deal with Russia because of what happened with the United States, and it looks like the Philippines and Russia are becoming closer and closer. We see out in North Korea and South Korea, we understand that there are drills going on. We see that USS Ronald Reagan has joined the South Korean Navy for the latest round of war games, and once again, they are pushing the idea that North Korea is going to be firing a missile at the United States, at South Korea, and the cabal is pushing this event forward, and they want this to happen, but it looks like Russia, China, South Korea, they're having talks in the background, and the United States is included, but not directly with North Korea as of yet. There are open channels, but all of these countries are trying to talk to North Korea to calm the situation down. We see that the U.S. is not going to interfere in EU trade with Iran. This is coming from Tillerson, which is very interesting because we see that Trump is out there pushing the agenda of going to war with Iran or getting rid of the P5+1 deal, which he really hasn't done. Actually, what he's done is absolutely nothing at this point, but the corporate media made it into a really big deal. And this looks like he's using this as a bargaining chip. And I still believe that Tillerson and Trump, they're playing good cop, bad cop. Tillerson is out there working with these different countries, talking about peace, working with Lavrov, working with other countries. In the meantime, Trump is keeping the corporate media very, very busy. And the corporate media and the intelligence agencies, they don't know which way to look. Now, I'm not saying everything is perfect. I'm not saying he's doing everything that he said. But again, we have to understand that these individuals in government, these intelligence agencies, they weren't just going to just disappear. They weren't going to be like, hey, you know what? You're the president. You want to do all this stuff? Go right ahead. No, there was going to be some type of battle. And a lot of the stuff cannot be done until the cabal is removed. And this takes time. You just can't come in and do it the next day. They've had years and years and years to infiltrate government. These are all the non-elected individuals that have infiltrated the government. And you just can't remove them with a snap of a finger. It's completely impossible because you don't know who's working with for who. You don't know who's helping. You don't know anything at this point. And you have to start to figure that out. And you have to remember, it's not just government. They infiltrated the corporate media. They took control of the corporate media. And this has been going on for years. Now, out in eastern Libya, we see they've done something very interesting. And we know there's different factions in Libya. We know that the United States, the UN, they have the government that they put into place. And they want the people to accept this government even though they weren't elected. And we see that General Haftar, he's working with Russia. And what happened here is that the authorities in eastern Libya, they're going to be circulating their own coins for the first time to ease shortages of money. And this is coming from the central bank. Now, the new coins are made in Russia and will join Russian-made paper currency that has already been issued in the eastern half of the country. So what we're seeing is that Russia is working with this part of the country. They're issuing Russian type of currency. We know that Russia has created the Eurasian note, and we see at this point that things are really changing. Now remember, Trump says we're not getting involved in Libya whatsoever. And we see with Syria, we see it with Libya, Lebanon, no new troops are really going into this area. Brazil is out there saying, listen, they're going to reopen their embassy in Syria. They're going to make plans to invest in Syria. So we have China, we have Brazil, we have Russia. They're all ready to go into Syria, use their funds, invest in Syria, and rebuild. Now, this is a surprising move that happened in Syria. The Syrian Democratic Forces handed over one of Syria's largest gas fields to Russian forces to give back to Syria. Now, this gas field, this was held by the Islamic State, and it was in the Kurdish territory. And they were using, and they had this, it's the Conoco field, and they were using and holding this field since 2014. Now, there were talks behind the scenes, and the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is controlled by the United States, decided to give this oil field back to the Syrian government, and they will have full control over it. So everything that was done over these many years, where the United States, Israel, and many other nations were controlling the Islamic State, where they were capturing these oil fields, using it, making their money to pay for their operations, it is all coming to an end. The Syrian Kurds are out there saying, listen, we don't want to partition Syria. We do not seek Kurdistan autonomy. What you heard is false. So who is pushing this? The cabal is pushing this. It's not the Kurds that are pushing this. So we see already things are falling apart. Now, out in Raqqa, the U.S.-backed forces, they said they were successful in removing the Islamic State. They own Raqqa right now, but what we are looking at is a complete disaster of Raqqa, taking Raqqa back and destroying the infrastructure over the many, many years because of the Islamic State, because of the Syrian Democratic Forces, because of the United States, the Cabal, I should say. 80% of Raqqa right now is uninhabitable. And we know over a long period of time, the strategy of the Cabal with the paid mercenaries was to destroy the infrastructure of Syria, to force the people out. And think about why they were forcing the people out. With less people in the country, the elections would go against Assad. So by capturing all these lands, controlling all these lands, destroying the infrastructure, forcing millions and millions and millions of people out of the country, the Cabal, they were hoping to control the elections, control the country, if they couldn't get to Assad. This was another way of getting to him, but it all fell apart. We see right now that the U.S. Department of State admitted that the militants linked to al-Nusra, linked to the Islamic State, guess what? They were using chemical weapons in Syria and in Iraq. And this is the first time that the United States admitted these individuals were using chemical weapons. Why didn't they admit it before? Because the Cabal was controlling them. The Cabal paid them. The Cabal used them. And they always blamed it on Assad. Now the truth is coming out, and they're saying that, yes, they were carrying out terrorist attacks using chemical weapons. They didn't say where they got the chemical weapons. They didn't tell anyone, who was supplying these type of weapons, but we know where they came from. We know it was through back channels, through the intelligence agencies, through most likely Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and the other countries, Israel, that supplied these terrorist groups with these type of weapons. So what we are seeing is, and we've been saying this for quite a while, that the Middle East has completely fallen. The Cabal has no control over the Middle East whatsoever, and they are really stuck here because Syria, it's just a matter of weeks now before the Syrian government and the Russian government, they have full control of the country. And the United States will be asked to leave. The other coalition forces will be asked to leave. We already see that Germany is not, training the Kurds anymore. All of this is coming to an end. Now, once again, it doesn't mean the Cabal is finished. They're not just going to give up because they spent a very long time establishing all of this. And they will push some type of an event. And it looks like it most likely will be coming out of North Korea, or they'll say that the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, because they had nothing else to lose, they will create, physical type of events throughout the country, throughout Europe, and then North Korea will see their opportunity to use cyber attacks on the financial institutions, on the power grid, and they can make this whole entire story up. This is what they've been pushing for quite a while right now. They've been using propaganda to convince us that they have the ability to do this. And there was a CIA intelligence officer saying that, North Korea is just months away from having a nuclear, a submarine that can fire off a nuclear missile into the United States. So they're already building this up because they know that they have a short period of time before this economy just putters out. When we look at the economy and we look what's happening right here, things are rapidly falling apart. I know people are saying, no, I don't see it. I don't know what you're talking about. Go back in time and think about what happened with retail. Think about how many more people are unemployed. Because if their numbers are true, we should see an increase in retail sales. We shouldn't see a decrease in federal tax receipts or state tax receipts. If everything is so great, just raise the interest rates. What's the problem here? If everything's so great, why is Europe and the Fed still using quantitative easing? Why are they still stimulating the economy? If everything is so great, let the real economy just take over. They can't do this because they know it will come down in a second, because they know this was built on an illusion. They are the only ones maintaining this. And I'm not even saying they're maintaining the real economy, like, housing, not just in their 20 cities, but outside of this area. They can't control everything. They can't control the spending. The only thing that they've been maintaining is the manipulated statistics and the stock market, which makes everyone believe that everything's fine. Think about everything that happened in 2008. Everyone really thought that everything was fine until the stock market came down. And then all of a sudden, the corporations had their excuse to say, oh, yeah, now we got to lay off. Yeah, now we got to let these people go. Because the truth is, we're broke. We need to default here. We don't have any money. We're extended to the point where there's nothing left for us to do. And that just didn't happen that day. This was happening all along. The same thing is going to happen. This is why you need to be ready and prepared. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.